GTA 5 has three main protagonists, and on the surface, this is how I may be able to describe them to you. Bad white man who has family of three, Filthy Frank when he goes way too far, and of course, B-Tech CJ. But what if I told you these characters have more that meets the eye? And in today's video, I'm going to be focusing on white man with family of three, aka Michael. So first, let's get some origin on Michael. As a child, Michael grew up thinking he was terrible at all things he did. All things except one, robbing and stealing. By the time Michael was 16, he had already landed himself in prison, and by the time he was 20, he was pulling off major bank robberies and scores. Michael thought that this was perfect for him, as he thought deep down inside of him that this was the only thing he was good at, so it was meant to be. At some point in Michael's late 20s to early 30s, he would meet a man called Trevor Phillips. It's heavily hinted at in GTA 5's story that Trevor was kicked out of the Air Force for mental health issues. From then, he never really knew what to do with his life until Michael found him. From there, Michael would use and adapt Trevor's unpredictable violent behaviour to fit into his heist crew and his bank robbing sprees. It's around about this time Michael would also meet two other people who would play a very important role in his life. Lester Crest being a man who would help infiltrate and set up their heist jobs from behind the scenes. It's here he would also meet one of his closest friends called Brad Cinder? I'm sorry, I've never heard his last name, that is odd. Anyway, I digress. He would meet Brad as a friend and they would also pull off heists together. Trevor, Brad, Michael and behind the scenes Lester would now begin to rob banks they had never dreamed of before. But it's also here that Michael had a very important moment in his life. Sometime in what we can presume is Michael's late 20s to early 30s, he also met a stripper named Amanda. He would fall in love with this girl and end up having two children with her, named Jimmy and Tracy. Michael would soon realise that carrying on this life of crime would only end up with him dead or in prison. It's around this time Michael would also meet a very, very important character named Dave Norton. Dave was in the FIB and struck a deal with Michael that Michael could fake his death in order to leave this life of crime with his family, but Dave would get to take all the credibility for killing Michael. However, in doing this, he would have to rat on his two co-heist members, Brad and Trevor, and he would have to make an important decision: who goes to prison and who dies. Michael had planned for Trevor to be killed as he was the more loose cannon, and Brad to be placed into prison so that he could claim that Michael was in fact dead. However, the events that followed would come to bite Michael in the back. In the botched heist, at one split-second moment, Brad would walk in front of Trevor, getting him shot and making Trevor live. Michael would still be able to fake his death, but Trevor would get away alive and unscathed. Michael would convince his wife Amanda to take her children, their children, and move to a place called Los Santos, where it's always sunny and there's no snow, where dreams are made true and where Michael can live the dream life with his family.
Listen, Amanda. We're going to move to Los Santos, start over. I made a deal. The slate will be totally wiped clean.
Hey, everybody pay attention, no one gets hurt.
Trust me.
After the events of North Yankton in 2004, where Michael made his dream happen, we would skip to Michael's dream. In 2013, Michael would age 9 years, now being 48, and we would get to see him in the present day, how his dream is going. And yes, he is living that dream of his. He is in the city he wanted and loved. He is with his wife, his family. His name is wiped completely clean, and he has everything he could possibly want, dream, or imagine. Except not really. You see, while Michael is technically in that dream of his, he's been trapped in it, almost like a nightmare. In fact, the first thing we see of him is him complaining to his therapist. And it's here where we start to get interested in Michael as a character. This character who got everything he wanted. I mean, hell, Normally the climax of a GTA game would be the start of what Prologue was, you know, trying to get Michael's slate clean. Normally the climax to any game would be like that, but yet it's the opening to this game. Michael is depressed, Michael is unhappy, Michael is discontent. Why is this? Michael, after getting out of the business he was in, the crime business, the bank robbing business, has become bored, spiteful, and overall completely ungrateful for this new slate he has. He misses his old ways of doing crime and his itch and adrenaline for doing crime, so he tries to fill that adrenaline with different things. Like, for example, cheating on his wife, completely ignoring and borderline abusing his children, being an overall dick to everyone he meets and sees, and completely complaining and hating himself. And to me, this is where Michael becomes most interesting, because he is a man who had everything going wrong for him, but at the same time had a possible future. He took that future, and as snaky as it was, having his friends or trying to have one of his closest friends killed after using him for years, he tried to survive, and he tried to make something better of his life. But he failed. And he failed because he became spiteful and discontent with what he wanted and wished for. And this is my first point to why I think Michael is the most interesting character in GTA 5. He is undeniably human. How many of us has saved up money after money for that phone we wanted, only to get pissed off with it when it breaks or when it does something wrong? How many people get into a loving relationship and end up breaking up because each other don't appreciate what each other do anymore? How many YouTubers want that money, want that grind, want that fame, only to chuck it back at everyone's face when it goes to their head and become ungrateful because of it and spiteful? Being ungrateful is borderline human nature, and being spiteful is a human trait. And that's why Michael is so human. Michael makes mistakes, Michael fucks up, and yes, Michael is the biggest snake in GTA 5, and arguably the worst protagonist in GTA 5 when it comes to moral standpoint. He cheats, he lies, he's an arsehole, he betrays his friends, he uses people, but yet he is spiteful and ungrateful. Two things that at some point in our lives, all of us have been, which makes him so human, and thus so interesting. Furthermore, it's very interesting to see a character like Franklin work their way from the bottom to make it to the top, but it's even more interesting to see someone like Michael, a man who's already really at the top, and then has to accept himself for who he is, and accept the new life he has come to hate. The beginning of Michael's story as a character is there to completely show us how much not only Michael hates himself, but his entire family and lack of friends hate him. His wife Amanda hates him because they both cheat on each other and he started it. His kids resent and hate him because he's a massive dick, and pretty much everyone he meets hates him. He doesn't even have as much money as he seems because, you know, he kind of has to pay off the FBI to keep his secret that Michael Townley is actually Michael DeSanta. So he's paying a lot of money to the FBI. Michael eventually meets a young man named Franklin, and Michael takes an interest to the lad. Franklin wants to get out of the hood and make it big, and he thinks that Michael is that big, and Michael sees the potential in to go back to his glory days through Franklin. He also kind of does like Franklin because he reminds him of a young self, and we do get this sort of son I never had vibe from them both, and that is joked about a lot throughout the game.
Some sort of son I never had bullshit here, Mikey?
After Michael does a few jumps with Franklin, he really starts to get this high of adrenaline, this high for wanting to go back to doing heists, but he never has the full excuse to do it. Until one day, he finds his wife cheating on a tennis coach. He chases this man up to what he presumes is his house, and begins to tear the fucking house off of its stilts. And yeah, that penthouse wasn't the tennis coach's. It was in fact a mob boss's called Martin Madrazo, who now owes, or is rather owed, a lot of money from Michael, 2 million to be precise. Michael does not have this money, so has to link up with an old friend, Lester Crest, to rob a jewelry store with the help of Franklin. After this heist, Michael gets the itch to go back to what he thinks are his glory days, his true reason to live, his true art, and Franklin, to be fair, sort of reinforces this idea with how much he enjoys the heist. Michael's old friend Trevor Phillips finds out through video footage on the news of what Michael said, one of his old catchphrases for robbing banks, and something Trevor had heard before, that Michael Townley, the man who he thought was dead, is alive. So he goes to track him down, and he does. By the way, he's unaware that he should be the one in Michael's grave, and he's also unaware that Brad is actually dead. He thinks that Brad has been sending him emails, but it's actually the FBI sending him fake emails, pretty much claiming that they're Brad. Trevor does track down Michael, and it's at this point in the game that Trevor, Franklin, and Michael all begin to do jobs with each other, working for the government, and Michael continues to pull small scores, and this makes Michael feel the most alive he's felt in years. Sure, he's suspicious of Trevor and a bit nervous of him, but he thinks that things could work out okay, and with Franklin, one of his best friends, by his side, he's really happy at the minute, and it just makes him push his family and resent them further and further. In fact, it gets so bad that Michael's entire family leave him because they're worried about Trevor, they're worried that Michael will end up dead, and they overall don't want to be around a crazy psychopath that they know is killing people.
We've decided to move out for a while. You promised me you'd change, and you haven't changed a bit. I know you say I always act like I'm in a movie. Well, this isn't that. I think I'm gonna speak to a lawyer.
It's at this point in the game where Trevor actually kidnaps the wife of a very powerful mafia boss, the same one that Michael pissed off earlier, Martin Madrazo, so Michael and Trevor both have to go into hiding, and it's here where we see Michael's real spiteful side, his real two-faced side. It's at this point in the game where Michael's family have completely left him, he is being hunted down by the mob to kill him, and a member named Steve Haynes of the FIB knows that Michael Townley is alive and is forcing Michael to do missions for him, or he'll basically tell the world that Michael Townley is alive, getting Dave in prison and probably Michael the death sentence or killed. At this point in the game where Michael profusely complains about how much he misses his old life. You know, his life of sitting in the sun, having a family, doing nothing all day. The same life Michael completely complained about and tried to push away. This brings me on to my second point to why Michael is so damn interesting. And that's because Michael is a massive fucking hypocrite. In fact, it gets to the point where it's so bad and he's complaining so much that he misses his family, always talking about how he loves them, always trying to phone them and get in contact with them, always talking about how much he misses his family and how much he has to lose if he does die, that Trevor even calls him out and says, "Hey Michael, you're going on about your family a lot, but when you had them, all you ever did was push them away, and now that they're gone, they were the greatest fucking thing that ever happened to you." Michael is a huge arsehole and hypocrite. It's clear that Michael took his family for complete granted and realised how much he loved doing nothing. And it's also clear that the whole glory gaze bullshit is kind of starting to wear off on him, but he still enjoys the thrill of it at least. But it will soon have no thrill at all. Michael misses his children, Michael misses his literal retirement house, Michael misses his wife, and these are all things he pushed away. Michael is a hypocrite, and I think a lot of us can be hypocrites to many things. For example, someone might do something you would do, but because they're the person you don't like, you're a hypocrite and talk bad about them. Being a hypocrite is sort of normal nature in some degree. We've all done it. It's not a nice thing to do, but we've all done it. And this further makes Michael interesting. Yes, he's an arsehole. Yes, he's a hypocrite. But we can now see him developing and understanding, most importantly, that his family actually did do a lot for him and actually meant a lot more to him than he let everyone else believe.
About you.
I miss my family!
Oh, you're full of shit! All you ever did was ignore them, and now that they're gone, you miss them. Fucking incredible.
A little bit further through the halfway point of the game, Trevor finds out that Brad is in fact dead, and Trevor was supposed to be killed, and Michael ratted them out to the FIB. Michael and Trevor have a standoff, but neither of themselves can pull the trigger on the other one, and this speaks a lot about Michael's character. You see, Michael is at his core a survivor. All he wants to do, like a snake, is survive, and that means if you are in his way, he will remove you from his way. I even think this is true to Amanda, because later on in the game, we see them go to therapy and try to, fix their relationship, and even then it sort of gets heated, and she threatens to put him in prison, and he literally says, do it, and he'll put her under the ground, implying he'll have her killed just like the rest. See, but Michael is happy to have people killed who get in his way so he can have a clean slate, but when it comes to doing it himself, when it comes to looking his friend in the eye and killing him, he can't bring himself to do it. He has a perfect shot here, he has a perfect opportunity, and yes, he does shoot at Trevor when he has his back turned to him, but looking him square in the eyes, Michael can't seem to bring himself to kill, and Michael's character doesn't really enjoy killing as much as someone like Trevor does. In fact, he tries to actively avoid it at all costs. In fact, he only kills if 100% necessary. That's why he probably had Dave Norton kill Trevor, or supposedly tried to kill Trevor for him, because he hasn't got the balls to do it himself. Anyway, Michael is then captured, hung from a meat factory and nearly grinded up into 1,000 pieces of meat before Franklin comes and saves him. Yeah, it's at this point in the game where Michael wants, once again, completely fucking out of the crime business, as he realises his glory days were kind of bullshit. In GTA 5's third act, or end act of the game, Michael decides to once again make a change to his life and try to appreciate and go back to his family. He sees his son and tells him he loves him. He tries to support his daughter as much as he can with the things she wants to do, and he even tells his wife, Amanda, that he's willing to give it another go, and even further later, after therapy, tells her that he'll stop seeing prostitutes and be faithful to her. He even uses the crimes that he's doing and the people he's working for his advantage. He kind of gets one of them to put a good word in with a movie producer. You see, Michael has had a long time dream to make movies, but he's never thought he's been good enough. But now, he's with Solomon Richard, a movie producer, and he even saves the movie studio from going under and crashing. Now, sure, he saves it for his own interest, but he's still doing good things. Michael is progressing as a character. He tries to give Franklin good advice as well, telling him that surviving is winning. Everything else is bullshit. And this is probably one of the most famous quotes from Michael, and it sort of sums up his character in one. Michael's main goal is to survive the events of GTA. Throughout the whole events, he's surviving his depression. He's surviving against the mob. He's surviving against the police. He's surviving until the end. And this is his best advice he can give to Franklin. Surviving is winning. But even himself seems to slowly be progressing into other things, not just about survival, but about enjoyment. He sort of begins to accept who he is. Michael has a few run-ins with Trevor Phillips, and the team, the gang, all agree to do one last score: rob the Union Depository. It's here where Michael is most interesting, and that's because of his development. You see, Michael still has this urge to rob this fuck-off big bank, and he doesn't really need to now. He has a job working at the movie studio, he's got decent money, he's got his family back, he's in a pretty secure place. Now sure, maybe he does this to tame Trevor a little bit more, but overall, he's in more of a secure place, and himself is more laid back, and he's grown as a person, but at the same time, it's almost like he's fighting between fully committing to being a good person and loving his family, or going back to his old ways of chasing that high and robbing that bank. Fast forward, and the Union Depository heist is done, and we are now at the end of the game. We are now at the final mission, Death Wish. Now I'm going to be talking about Death Wish for all 3 of my character analyzation videos coming up in this month, because I have a much video next month on why each specific ending works for every character in GTA 5. So we're going to stay with Death Wish for this video, and we're staying with Death Wish because that's pretty much what everyone says is the canon ending, so might as well go with that one. Now, it's here in Death Wish at the very start where Michael actually has a few issues. In fact, when Franklin walks into the warehouse, he sees that Trevor has a gun to Michael's face, same with Michael to Trevor. And eventually, Trevor decides not to shoot Michael. It's interesting here because it's Trevor who's actually the biggest man who puts his gun down first and can't kill his brother, whereas Michael has his gun locked on Trevor. Even when Trevor turns around, Michael begins to lower his gun just for him to hire it again. And this is what I'm saying, Michael has to be 100% sure that he will survive a scenario to put his gun down. He still has that snaky, grassy side within him, that instinct that says survival over everything. But they all put their disagreements aside and work together. They fight off the FBI, they fight off Merryweather, and then they go to take down the main 3 villains. 4 villains, technically. Who the fuck counts Stretch as a main villain? He appears like 3 times. Fuck off.
Hey. Oh, motherfucker! You lame ass punk motherfuckers!
After they deal with all 4 villains, the 3 main characters get together, and it's here where Michael's character finally finishes, and our interest slightly peaks, as this is the stage of Michael's character where he finally develops into a new person, or a changed person. Michael now appreciates Franklin for not only saving his life, but as a person and as the sort of son he always wanted. He now appreciates Trevor and agrees to be friends with him, and sort of apologizes for what he has done. Michael will stay committed to his wife and improve relations with his son and daughter, becoming the family man he once dreamed of being. He will continue to work on films with Solomon Richards, and he actually did make a film called Meltdown, which you can actually see in GTA. Solomon even emails you telling you that the film has mixed reviews, but it did really well in the box office, meaning Michael and him can make more films. But what changes most about Michael's character? What changes most about Michael as a man? What changes most about this character is his will for crime. All throughout GTA 5, he has wanted to get back into his old crime ways, wanted to get back into his ways of robbing banks, doing scores, and feeling those good old days. But by the end of GTA 5's story, he says one thing. He says to Trevor, T, I'm getting way too old for this nonsense. Showing that Michael, no, does not love himself. He still in fact hates himself. But he has realized that he is too old to be robbing banks, and he has a family, friends, and other commitments that are far too important to him now. By the end of GTA 5, Michael's character has fully developed, fully grown, and slightly changed. Michael is still an arsehole. Michael is still kind of a prick. Michael is still ungrateful, and Michael still hates himself and is sad about his life. But yet, Michael is committed to his family, his passions, and understands his friends. Michael actually does come full circle in the end, starting off pretty much the exact same as where he was, except this time he loves his life. Michael still has the same house. Michael, granted, has better financial interests and better money, way better money. He now has friends and family, but he's still in the exact same location, he still owns the same house, he's still with the same family, and he still more or less has the same friends by the end of the game. The only thing that's changed is Michael's view on life and what life should be about. Michael understands that he no longer wants to rob banks for a living, but he wants to be a family man. And that is why Michael's character is so interesting. If you enjoyed this character essay and overview, please do leave a like and subscribe. 2 more will be coming out on I Think You Can Guess Who, as well as a review by the end of this month. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel to help that this channel grows and ensure that this channel grows. I hope you enjoy this content, I hope you guys stay safe, I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace. By the way, I just want to give a massive thank you to the GTA series video channel. On post editing this, I realised how many of their clips I use, and go check them out. They just post pretty much GTA content and GTA missions, and without them, making this video would be a lot more of a struggle getting all 100% of the gameplay myself, so I thank them. Also, I have to do this, I have to shout out Dark Viper AU. I know he's a lot bigger channel than me. I did not copy his idea, okay? I've been working on this for months, okay? Shut up. Just because he released a video like 6 days ago. Shush. Okay, bye.
Welcome to my $7.5 million penthouse tour. Let's see if this video can hit 1